Good morning, grandchildren. I have read a version of this one before. I'm going to read it again. It's one of my favorites. It's the tale of Peter Rabbit. There's Peter with his nice coat. And there are his brothers and sisters. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. Oh, look at their home. They look so happy, don't they? There's mother in the background getting things ready for breakfast, and they're all getting ready for the day. One morning, old Miss Rabbit said, "I'm going to the bakery to buy brown bread and currant buns. You may go into the field or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. Mcgregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. Mcgregor. Oh my goodness, he was eaten." This is realism. So their daddy was eaten by Mr. Mcgregor, Ms. Mcgregor. They baked him in a pie. Uh-oh, they're all paying attention. I think somebody's distracted. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight to Mr. Mcgregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. Why in the world would he have done that? Good bunny, bad bunny. There he goes, squeezing under the gate after he was told not to. Look at that. Some pretty irises growing there. First, he ate some lettuce and beans, and then he ate some radishes. Look at him, a little pig. Actually, he's a rabbit, but he's acting like a pig. On his way to find some parsley, whom should he meet but Mr. Mcgregor? Ooh, look at that. Trouble, trouble. He's hopping through there. Mr. McGregor's like, more pie. Mr. McGregor jumped up and ran after Peter, shouting, "Stop, thief!" Peter was very frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. Oh, he is so going to end up in a pie like his daddy. Mr. McGregor's got a shovel. He's going to beat the brains out of that rabbit. Unfortunately, Peter ran into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large brass buttons on his jacket. Peter gave himself up for lost, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and begged him to try to free himself. They knew what was going to happen to him. Like, that rabbit is dead meat. They're going to eat that rabbit. So these birds are begging him, "Please try to get loose." Just as Mr. Mcgregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop on top of Peter, Peter wriggled out of his jacket, leaving it behind him. He rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a watering can. It would have been a good thing to hide in if it hadn't had so much water in it. So, here it is. Mr. McGregor is going to lay this sieve over him. A sieve is just basically a wooden ring with a screen in it, and you can put dirt in it and shake it out and get all the rocks out of the dirt, or you could dip it in water and let water run through it and maybe collect berries that you've got in there washing. It's a screen. It's a type of screen. He was going to place it over the top of Peter Rabbit and catch him. Peter Rabbit was quicker than that. He got loose, left his jacket behind, and hopped into that little watering can, but there was water in it. Poor guy. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath the flower pot. He began to turn them over, one at a time. Suddenly, Peter sneezed. Achoo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. So here he is. See his little ears sticking up? Here's Mr. McGregor. Is he under this pot? Is he under this pot? Is he? Achoo! Oh my. Peter jumped out of the window. Fortunately, the window was too small for Mr. McGregor. Then Peter ran away from the tool shed all around the garden. At last, he found the garden gate. He slipped underneath and was safe once more in the woods outside. Peter Rabbit, you didn't obey your mama. There he comes out that window and heading toward the gate. Wow. I am so sorry that Peter did not feel well that evening. His mother put him to bed and gave him a dose of chamomile tea, 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. So he got a little chamomile tea at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. Poor Peter. He disobeyed, and as a result, he didn't get a delicious meal, and he feels bad and is sick. This is why we should obey. It's why Curious George is not my favorite character. But he's missing out because of that. Maybe you need to have a meal, if you've been a good boy, of bread and milk and blackberries. If you don't have blackberries, maybe you've got another kind of fruit at the house. And you could tell your mommy, you could say, I want to have a meal like Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had. Bread and milk and some berry. However, if you've not been a good child today and you've been bad, your mother may say no. So I hope you've been good. You can say, please let me eat like Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. I love you grandchildren so much.